What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for NFL Week 6, Thursday Night Football.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon
so you don't miss our new videos.
Okay, in this video, I'm going to give you my top picks for the Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, let's take a look at this Thursday Night Football Showdown between the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs. So at the quarterback position, of course, the stud on the slate, and he's in a fantastic matchup, is Patrick Mahomes from the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Denver Broncos, who have the worst defense overall, and they give up the second most fantasy points to opposing quarterbacks. Now, Patrick Mahomes has averaged 21.2 fantasy points per game on the season. He's getting an average of 4.6 rush attempts per game. He's going to be about 76% owned, but he is $12,800 DraftKings salary. Now, he is projected at 24.1 fantasy points here tonight. Vegas thinks there's going to be 47 points scored in this game, with the Kansas City Chiefs favored by 10.5. Now, I love Patrick Mahomes. Of course, he's expensive. He's in a good matchup. Could be a good game script for him here. I do think Russell Wilson is going to keep this competitive, somewhat competitive, keep the pressure on Patrick Mahomes to throw the ball. But at the same time, he is super expensive with high ownership, so he's going to need to smash it. He's going to need to hit a home run tonight to pay off his price tag. But we all know he can do that. So I do like Patrick Mahomes in a good matchup here versus the Denver Broncos. Now for the Denver Broncos, you have Russell Wilson. And take a look at this. Russell Wilson is averaging 21.3 fantasy points per game on the season. Actually 0.1 fantasy point per game more than Patrick Mahomes. Now he's getting an average of 3.6 rush attempts per game. Going to be about 51% owned. And I have been all over Russell Wilson to start this NFL season. He's been underpriced and he's been performing quite well, as you can see here. And once again, he's projected at only 16.4 fantasy points, but he is only $9,600 DraftKings salary. Compare that to the $12,800 of Patrick Mahomes, and it's quite the salary savings, especially if they score similar fantasy points. Russell Wilson would be the better pick. So Vegas thinks there's going to be 47 points scored in this game. They have the Broncos trailing by 10.5. So you definitely could make the case for the game script for Russell Wilson being a passing game script as they play from behind. So I do like Russell Wilson, although it's not a great matchup here. The Kansas City Chiefs have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing quarterbacks. But I think the risk to reward here with the salary savings and the lower ownership make a lot of sense, especially because Russell Wilson has had a good start to the season. So I like Russell Wilson here versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching.
If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal,
all you need to do is like this video, hit that subscribe button, and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
Okay, let's take a look at the running back position. So the stud on the slate is Isaiah Pacheco from the Kansas City Chiefs playing the Denver Broncos, who have the absolute worst defense overall, and they give up the absolute most fantasy points to opposing running backs. Now, Isaiah Pacheco has averaged 14.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 14.2 rush attempts per game and 2.6 pass targets per game. So he's going to be about 50% owned, projected at 14.4 fantasy points here tonight. He's 9,400 DraftKings salary. Now Isaiah Pacheco has scored 13, 28, and 16 fantasy points in the last 3 games, off of 16, 20, and 15 rush attempts, on top of 1, 3, and 3 pass targets. So pretty good volume and production in a fantastic matchup here. So I like Isaiah Pacheco here versus the Denver Broncos. He's also got that potential running game script here if the Kansas City Chiefs get ahead by a couple of touchdowns, as Vegas thinks that they might. Isaiah Pacheco could get a pretty nice workload here. Now, if you want to save some salary at the running back position, take a look at the running back from the Denver Broncos, Javonte Williams. The Kansas City Chiefs got a good defense, and they're pretty good defending opposing running backs. Javonte Williams looks like he didn't play last week. He's averaging 7.5 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 9.5 rush attempts per game and 3.8 pass targets per game. So it's not getting as much volume as Isaiah Pacheco. He's going to be about 23% owned, projected at 10.2 fantasy points here tonight. He is 7,200 DraftKings salary, 400 more on, 7,200 DraftKings salary. So I do like that Javonte Williams will catch the ball out of the backfield, averaging 3.8 pass targets per game that he's played. So I do think he's got an opportunity here. I don't think he'll be game scripted out of this one. Yeah, so sorry for the interruptions here. So I don't think he's going to be game scripted out of this one. I do think he's going to get a good workload here in this one. He's going to be about 23% owned. You're going to save a decent amount of salary. But I absolutely like Isaiah Pacheco much more over Javonte Williams. But it's a pretty big salary difference here, 2,200 difference. So it just depends on your lineup and who you want to play here. Another running back, though, that you could consider, I'll just tell you that the running backs on this slate outside of Isaiah Pacheco are somewhat of a question mark. The ownership is kind of spread around these backs, these backup running backs. It's just hard to know who's going to get volume here, especially for the Denver Broncos. So you got Javonte Williams coming in. How many carries is he going to get? We're not sure. But then you also have a guy like Samaj Perine from the Denver Broncos. Now, he's averaging 7.9 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.8 rush attempts per game and 3.6 pass targets per game. And he's getting pretty decent volume, even with Javonte Williams in the game. He'll get a handful of carries or a handful of touches, possibly 5 to 10 touches for Samaj Perine. And he's only 5,000 DraftKings salary, going to be about 17% ownership. So that's another opportunity if you want to save some salary at running back. Those are the guys that I like: Isaiah Pacheco, Javonte Williams, and Samaj Perine.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. This is a great time to get in and try everything for 1 month. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, so let's take a look at the wide receiver position. So lots of options here at wide receiver. I'm just going to go down the line. So we got the stud on the slate, Jerry Jeudy from the Denver Broncos, playing the Kansas City Chiefs, who have a good defense overall. They've been good versus opposing wide receivers. Now, Jerry Jeudy averaging 9.5 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6 pass targets per game. He's going to be about 34% owned, projected at 11.6 fantasy points here tonight. He's 9,000 DraftKings salary, And what I like about this pick is that with Vegas thinking Denver's going to be behind by 10.5 points or trailing by 10.5, probably going to be a lot of pass targets to these Denver wide receivers. That's why I like the idea of like a Russell Wilson, Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton type lineup, type stack, and then running it back with like an Isaiah Pacheco, and a sleeper pick or a dart throw. So we'll take a look at a lineup like that at the end of this video. But I do like Jerry Jeudy. He scored 11, 8, and 13 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 7, 5, and 7 pass targets. So I like Jerry Jeudy here versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, if you want to save some salary, if you want to stack this guy on here, take a look at Cortland Sutton from the Denver Broncos. So he's averaging 12 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 6.2 pass targets per game. So averaging more both in fantasy points per game and pass targets per game than is Jerry Jeudy. He's been on the field for 88% of the snaps, going to be about 30% owned, projected at 10.2 fantasy points here tonight. He's 7,800 DraftKings salary. So Cortland Sutton, so he scored 2, 12, and 21 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 3, 5, and 11 pass targets. So it looks like he has some monster upside here for a pretty reasonable price tag. So I like Cortland Sutton here versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs. Got a lot of mid-range salary plays here. No real stud on the slate here. You got Rashee Rice, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So those are the guys that are probably going to see pass targets here tonight for the Kansas City Chiefs. Starting off with the most expensive, you got Rashee Rice. He's the Denver playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, playing the Denver Broncos, who have the worst defense overall and give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing wide receivers. So this wide receiver core has a good matchup here tonight for the Kansas City Chiefs. So Rashee Rice averaging 9.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 4.8 pass targets per game. Been on the field for 36% of the snaps. Looks like he just started picking up some volume the past 3 games. He's going to be about 17% owned, projected at 9.2 fantasy points here tonight. He's 6,400 DraftKings salary. He is the most expensive Kansas City wide receiver on the slate. So it looks like they expect him to get the bulk of the workload, or at least have the most upside here. Rashee Rice scored 13, 6, and 11 fantasy points in the last 3 games off of 5, 5, and 7 pass targets. So let's just go through the pass targets of each of these wide receivers so you can kind of compare here. So Rashee Rice got 5, 5, and 7 pass targets in the last 3 games. Sky Moore got 2, 2, and 6 pass targets in the last 3 games. Kadarius Toney got 6, 2, and 1 pass targets in the last 3 games. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling got 2, 2, and 2 pass targets in the last 3 games. So really difficult to know who's going to get the targets. They like to spread them around. I like to spread the ball around here, which doesn't really bode well for daily fantasy production. But the salaries are all pretty reasonable for good matchups, and any one of these guys can hit that price tag. So I think it's pretty much just go ahead and build your lineup and then see what you have left for salary. You could go with a guy like Kadarius Toney, who got 6 pass targets last game, scored 8 fantasy points at only 4,000 DraftKings salary, going to be about 21% owned. So I like him as a dart throw or a low salary play. You got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who's consistently getting a couple of targets. Oh, looks like he's the least involved out of the group, but he is the least expensive at 3,400 DraftKings salary and only about 10% ownership. So he'd be a sleeper pick. So anyways, kind of hard to know who's going to get the ball out of these Kansas City wide receivers. So I like all these guys depending on your salary remaining. So let's take a look at the tight end position. So the stud on the slate, of course, is Travis Kelce from the Kansas City Chiefs, playing the Denver Broncos, who have the worst defense overall, give up the third most fantasy points to opposing tight ends. Travis Kelce is averaging 16.8 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 9.3 pass targets per game. Now, he's been on the field for 53% of the snaps, but he does touch the ball 20% of the time when he's on the field. Going to be about 67% owned, projected at 15.7 fantasy points here tonight. He's 11,000 DraftKings salary. Now, he was limited in practice on Wednesday. He is questionable, so just keep an eye on the injury news. Make sure he's going to be a full go. So I like Travis Kelce here versus the Denver Broncos. Now, if you're looking for a sleeper pick or a dart throw here, take a look at Adam Troutman from the Denver Broncos. So Adam Troutman only averaging 4.2 fantasy points per game on the season, getting an average of 2.8 pass targets per game. But he did get 5 pass targets last game, scored 13 fantasy points. He's been on the field for 83% of the snaps, going to be about 13% owned. He's only 2,800 DraftKings salary, and what could be a passing game script here, he could get a handful of targets in this game pretty easily and hit value. So I like Adam Troutman as a sleeper pick dart throw value play here versus the Kansas City Chiefs.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smickety smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NFL slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.